A few days before my wedding, my stepmother said, "I gave your $15,000 wedding venue deposit to Vanessa for her surprise birthday party. She needs it more than you do. You're not even engaged yet, so..." Stop being dramatic. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just smiled, walked out with my fiancé, and 6 months later, I bought the entire luxury resort chain that included that very venue. When my stepsister showed up for her dream wedding tour, the manager looked her straight in the eye and said, "I'm sorry, but the owner has blacklisted your family." You won't believe what I did next. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Martha Reynolds, and for 28 years, I've been the daughter nobody wanted to see. When mother dies and father remarries a woman who brings her own perfect daughter into the picture, you learn real quick what it means to fade into the background. My dad, Richard, he never stood up for me. Not once. And my stepsister Vanessa? She made sure I knew every single day why she was the golden child and I was just there. But that day, the day everything fell apart before it could even begin. I remember pulling into the driveway of my childhood home, my heart racing with excitement. I had the receipt in my purse, proof that I'd finally done it. After 3 years of saving every spare dollar from my job, I put down a $15,000 deposit on Rosewood Gardens estate, the most beautiful wedding venue in the state. James, my fiancé, had proposed 2 months earlier, and I couldn't wait to show my family that I was building something real, something beautiful. James waited in the car while I went inside. He'd learned over the years that family gatherings with my stepmother Patricia weren't exactly his favorite way to spend an afternoon. I should have known something was wrong the moment I walked through the door. Patricia, my dad, and Vanessa were all sitting in the living room with these serious expressions on their faces, like they were waiting for me. "Martha, sit down," Patricia said, her voice sharp and businesslike. "We need to talk." I sat on the edge of the couch, my purse clutched in my lap. "What's going on?" Patricia didn't waste any time. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "I transferred your venue deposit to Vanessa's account. She's having her surprise birthday party next month, and she needed a nice location. $15,000 was perfect for what she had in mind." For a moment, I couldn't process the words. They didn't make sense. What? That was my wedding venue deposit. I've been saving for 3 years. Vanessa was sitting on the armchair, examining her nails like this conversation bored her. "Oh, come on, Martha. You're not even officially engaged. You've just been talking about this wedding like it's some fairy tale. I actually have a reason to celebrate." "I am engaged," I said, my voice shaking. "James proposed. I was coming here to tell you all and show you the venue." My dad finally spoke up, but he wouldn't look at me. He just stared at his hands. "Your stepmother has a point, sweetheart. It's just money. You're young. You can save again. Vanessa has worked so hard, and she deserves something special." I felt like I'd been slapped. "Dad, that was my money. Money I earned. How could you let her just take it?" Patricia leaned forward, her expression cold and condescending. "Let me be very clear, Martha. Vanessa has accomplished something with her life. She has a career, she has prospects, she has value. You're a junior accountant who's still trying to figure things out. Stop being so dramatic about everything. It's exhausting." That's when Vanessa started laughing. Not a small chuckle, but this loud, cruel laugh that echoed through the room. She stood up, walked over to me, and looked down at me like I was nothing. "This is exactly why I'll always be the golden child, Martha. You just don't have that special something. Thanks for the party venue, sis. I'm sure it'll be amazing." I sat there, frozen. 28 years of being pushed aside, overlooked, and treated like I didn't matter all came crashing down on me in that moment. Every birthday where Vanessa got the big celebration and I got nothing. Every achievement of mine that was met with a shrug, while Vanessa's smallest accomplishment was treated like a miracle. Every time my dad chose Patricia's word over mine. But I didn't cry. I refused to give them that satisfaction. I stood up slowly, looked at each of them, and said in the calmest voice I could manage, "You know what? Keep it. Consider it my last gift to this family." They all thought I was blabbing, but I wasn't. The truth is that when I started saving this money up, I needed it and depended on it. But about 3 years ago, I didn't need it anymore. I just decided to continue the savings to measure how well I could do on my own. Then, I walked out. Vanessa's laughter followed me all the way to the door. James was on his phone when I got to the car, but the moment he saw my face, he knew something terrible had happened. "Martha, what's wrong?" I got in the passenger seat, closed the door, and that's when everything I'd been holding back just broke. I couldn't stop the tears, couldn't stop the shaking. James held me while I sobbed in that car parked outside the house where I'd never felt like I belonged. "They took it," I finally managed to say. "Patricia gave my venue deposit to Vanessa for her birthday party. $15,000 just gone. And my dad, he just sat there. He didn't defend me. He never defends me. James's jaw clenched. "That's theft, Martha. We can press charges." But I shook my head. "It won't matter. My dad will say he gave permission or something. They'll twist it somehow. They always do." We sat there in silence for a while, and then I knew I had to tell him. I'd been keeping a secret, not because I wanted to lie, but because I needed to know that the people in my life loved me for who I was, not what I had. And throughout those periods, only James had treated me right. "James, there's something I need to tell you. Something I haven't told anyone in my family." He looked at me, concerned. "What is it?" "When my mom died, she left me a trust fund. I got access to it when I turned 25. It's substantial. And that's not all." I took a deep breath. "I'm not really a junior accountant. I mean, I was, but 3 years ago I started my own company. It's a cybersecurity software firm called Reynolds Tech Solutions. We're doing really well. Better than well. Actually." James blinked, processing this information. "Martha, why didn't you tell them?" "Because I wanted them to love me for me," I whispered. "I didn't want their fake affection because they thought I had money. I wanted them to see me, to value me, just as I am. But now I realize they're not capable of that. They never were. I've lived a double life past 3 years, and now I see no need for that anymore." 2 weeks later, I was sitting in my real office, the sleek downtown space where I ran my tech company, when my business partner Keisha burst through the door with news that would change everything. "Martha, sit down," she said, practically vibrating with excitement. "The defense contract came through. $50 million. Our company valuation just hit $200 million. I stared at her, the numbers not quite computing. $200 million? "You're one of the youngest self-made female entrepreneurs in the state," Keisha said, grinning. "Martha, you did it. We did it." She had a business magazine on her desk, and as we celebrated, my eyes landed on an article, "Top 10 Luxury Resort Chains for Sale." I picked it up, scanning through the listings, and that's when I saw it. Azure Dreams Resort Collection. A chain of luxury venues across 3 states, including their flagship property, Rosewood Gardens Estate. The exact venue that had been stolen from me. Something cold and sharp settled in my chest. Not anger, exactly. more like clarity. Pisha, I said slowly, I need you to set up a meeting with Azure Dreams owners. Make it anonymous. Use our shell corporation. I want to acquire the entire chain. She looked at me, understanding dawning in her eyes. Martha, that's going to cost you at least $80 million. I know, I said, and for the first time since that horrible day in my father's living room, I smiled. Set up the meeting. 6 months later, I sat in the owner's suite of Rosewood Gardens estate, the very venue that had started everything. The papers were signed. I now owned the entire Azure Dreams resort collection, all 15 properties across 3 states, $85 million, and worth every penny. The property manager, David Charles, sat across from me, reviewing the final details. He was professional, discreet, exactly what I needed. Mrs. Reynolds, is there anything specific you'd like me to know about managing the properties? I pulled out a piece of paper with 3 names written on it. David, I need you to blacklist these people from all properties in the collection. No bookings, no events, no tours, no exceptions. Patricia Reynolds, Vanessa Reynolds, and Richard Reynolds. If they try to book anything, the answer is no. David took the paper, asked no questions, and simply nodded. Consider it done, Mrs. Reynolds. My phone buzzed as I left the estate. A text from my father. Your sister got engaged. She's planning her dream wedding. Maybe this will help you two bond. Come to her engagement party. Don't worry, I will try fix you an invite. I looked at the message for a long moment, laughed, then deleted it. I had everything I needed now. The venue they'd stolen from me. The power they'd never believed I could have. And very soon, they were going to learn exactly what happens when you push someone aside one too many times. I built an empire in the shadows while they'd laughed at me. Now it was time for them to see what the overlooked daughter had become. 2 months after I bought the resort chain, I didn't hear a word from my family. No calls, no texts, nothing. Which was exactly what I expected. They never reached out unless they needed something from me, and since I walked out that day, I've become even more invisible to them than before. Or so they thought. I was in my office when Keisha walked in with a grin on her face. You're going to love this. Guess who's getting married and just booked Rosewood Gardens estate? Vanessa, I said, not even looking up from my laptop. Bingo, Keisha said, sliding her phone across my desk. On the screen was a screenshot from some exclusive wedding planning forum. Vanessa had posted about finding an amazing 50% off promotion for Rosewood Gardens estate. The comments were full of people congratulating her, asking how she'd scored such an incredible deal. I smiled. The bait was set, and she'd walked right into it. She always loves a world of luxury they can't afford. Over the next few weeks, I had Trevor dig deeper into Vanessa and Derek's situation. What he found was even worse than I'd imagined. They weren't just planning a wedding, they were planning a con. The guest list included Whitmore, a business mogul, 3 tech CEOs, a handful of venture capitalists, and about a dozen influencers with massive followings. According to the details Trevor had accessed, Derek had been telling people he was about to close a major real estate deal. He'd been dropping hints about investment opportunities, promising returns that were way too good to be true. The wedding wasn't just a celebration. It was a networking event designed to sucker wealthy people into giving them money. They're planning to pitch investments at their own wedding reception. I told James one night. They've already spent $40,000 they don't have on deposits, the dress, invitations. They're drowning in debt, and they think they can scam their way out of it. James shook his head. So, when are you going to tell them? I smiled. I'm not. I'm going to let the venue manager tell them. 2 weeks before the wedding. The plan was perfect. Cruel, maybe, but perfect. 6 weeks before Vanessa's wedding, I scheduled a corporate event at Rosewood Gardens Estate, a celebration for Reynolds Tech Solutions' latest contract. I invited all my business partners, our major clients, and some of the most influential people in the tech industry. The date I chose? The exact same day Vanessa had booked for her wedding. Of course, my booking took priority. I owned the place. David called me when Vanessa showed up for her final venue walkthrough 2 weeks before her wedding date. I was in a meeting, but I put him on speaker and muted my end, so I could listen. Good afternoon, Ms. Reynolds. I'm David Charles, the property manager. Thank you so much, Vanessa gushed. I've been dreaming about this day for months. Everything has to be absolutely perfect. I could hear Patricia in the background, her voice syrupy sweet. My daughter deserves the best. Nothing but the best for our golden girl. I'm sure it will be lovely, David said. Then his tone shifted, became formal. However, I'm afraid there's been an issue with your booking. Silence. Then Vanessa, her voice sharp. What kind of issue? The venue has been booked for a private corporate event on your wedding date. The owner of the resort has scheduled a personal event, and owner bookings supersede all other reservations. I could hear Vanessa's breathing getting faster, panicked. The owner? Who owns this place? I want to speak to them right now. The owner is Mrs. Martha Reynolds, David said, and I wished I could see their faces. She purchased the Azure Dreams Resort Collection 6 months ago. She scheduled a celebration for her company, Reynolds Tech Solutions. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Patricia, her voice barely a whisper. Martha? Our Martha? Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Reynolds is the founder and CEO of Reynolds Tech Solutions. The company is currently valued at $200 million. She owns all 15 properties in this collection. You're lying, Vanessa's voice cracked. Martha's a junior accountant. She doesn't have that kind of money. This is insane. I assure you, there's no mistake. Mrs. Reynolds made it very clear that your family is blacklisted from all our properties. I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Your deposit will be refunded, minus the cancellation fee. Blacklisted? Patricia shrieked. She can't do this. This is discrimination. I'll sue. Ma'am, this is private property. The owner has every right to refuse service. Security will escort you out if you don't leave voluntarily. I heard scrambling, voices talking over each other, Derek trying to reason with David, Vanessa crying, and then the call ended. My phone started ringing almost immediately. My father. I declined the call. He called again, and again. On the 4th try, I answered. Martha, what have you done? His voice sounded broken, desperate. I booked a venue for a corporate event, I said calmly. Is that a crime? You know exactly what you did. Vanessa's wedding is in 2 weeks. She's already sent out invitations to over 200 people. Important people. She can't find another venue on this short notice. That sounds like poor planning on her part, I said coldly. Martha, please. I know we hurt you. I know Patricia and Vanessa treated you terribly. But this is too far. You're destroying your sister's life. She's not my sister, I said quietly. And you don't get to ask me for mercy, Dad. Not after 28 years of watching you do nothing while they pushed me aside. Not after you let Patricia steal $15,000 from me. Not after you chose them over me every single time. I was wrong, he said, and I could hear tears in his voice. I was wrong about everything. But please, don't do this. It's already done, I said. And you know what the best part is? In 2 weeks, and throwing a party at the venue they thought was theirs. I'll be celebrating my success with people who actually value me, while Vanessa explains to all her important guests why her dream wedding doesn't exist anymore. I hung up before he could respond. The gossip started spreading immediately. Someone leaked the story to a local blogger, and by the next morning it was everywhere. Tech CEO blocks stepsister's wedding after years. A family abuse. The story went viral. My company's PR team was fielding dozens of interview requests. And the best part? Vanessa had already sent out her invitations. She'd already told everyone about her incredible wedding at Rosewood Gardens estate. Now she had to contact every single guest and tell them it was canceled. Trevor called me 3 days later. Derek left her, packed his stuff, and moved out. According to my sources, he couldn't handle the embarrassment. All those investors he was planning to scam at the wedding? They're asking questions now. His whole house of cards is collapsing. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt hollow. The day of my corporate event arrived, and Rosewood Gardens estate looked absolutely stunning. All my business partners were there, my employees, clients, everyone who'd helped build Reynolds Tech Solutions into what it was today. As the celebration progressed, security called David. There was someone at the gate demanding to be let in. It was Vanessa, in her wedding dress. Patricia and my father were with her. They must have thought I'm still that lady they can easily manipulate. David came to find me. Mrs. Reynolds, your family is at the front gate. They're asking to speak with you. James appeared at my side. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do, I said quietly. I walked to the front entrance. Through the glass doors I could see them, Vanessa in her wedding gown, mascara running down her face. Patricia looked older than I'd ever seen her, and my father standing there with his shoulders slumped. I opened the door but didn't step outside. What do you want? I asked. Vanessa lurched forward. How could you do this to me? It's my wedding day, Martha. My wedding day, and you destroyed it. No, I said calmly. You destroyed it when you stole my venue deposit and laughed in my face. You destroyed it when you spent your entire life making sure I knew I was nothing compared to you because you have all the support. I just finally stopped letting you get away with it. Vanessa dropped to her knees, her white dress pooling around her. Please, Martha. All my guests are waiting. Everything I planned is ruined. Please, just let me have this one. I looked down at her, this woman who'd tormented me my entire life, now begging on my doorstep. You know what's funny? I said quietly. I spent 6 months planning this moment. And now that it's here, I realize something. You already had nothing. You've always had nothing. No real talent, no real success, just Patricia's favoritism and my father's weakness propping you up. I didn't take anything from you, Vanessa. I just stopped giving. I stepped back inside and closed the door. Through the glass, I watched my father help Vanessa to her feet. I watched them turn and walk back to their car. I won. I've finally shown them what I could do also. So why did victory feel so much like loss? That must be because I am more humane than them. And I wished I could have punished them in another way, but I could not think of anything else than what they did to me. I didn't need them to see my worth anymore. I found it myself. And that was the real victory. Thanks for listening to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about strength, justice, and finding your power. Drop a comment below and let me know what you would have done in Martha's situation. See you in the next one.